Just now, Richard Childress Racing has bad news. Well, the two NASCAR champions, Richard Childress and Kyle Busch, as we all know, they are both fierce combatants. They made light of their history and spoke enthusiastically of their shared future. Well, can we expect them to work together to win the championship? It's being speculated that it may or may not work. Well, why would that be? Let's talk it out here, right now, on Racing Rush. When Kyle Busch and Richard Childress met in September for the formal announcement of his plans to join Richard Childress Racing in 2023, the two men appear to be genuinely excited and enthusiastic about their new partnership. They greeted one another with friendly smiles and handshakes to each other warmly. Richard Childress will now be Kyle Busch's boss. Due to the fact that Busch and Childress had previously held grudges against one another, which culminated in the NASCAR Hall of Fame team owner punching Busch in the face multiple times after a race in 2011, this unlikely marriage appears to serve as the perfect example of letting the past be in the past and letting bygones be bygones. However, let's not deceive ourselves about anything. Both Busch and Childress are intense competitors who do not take defeat well, especially when it occurs repeatedly. When things are going well, it is simple to maintain a cheerful demeanor in front of the cameras. However, when things are not going well, it's significantly more difficult to do so. There is a good chance that Busch and RCR will have a successful season in the NASCAR Cup Series in 2023. On the other hand, if those expectations aren't realized, all of those nice and fuzzy sensations could be replaced with feelings of irritation, discontentment, or even hate on the part of the driver, the team owner, or both of them. Keeping this possibility in mind, let's take a look at 4 different circumstances that could lead to the partnership between Busch and RCR falling apart in a relatively short amount of time. If teammate Austin Dillon continues to perform better than Kyle Busch on a continuous basis. As much as Richard Childress undoubtedly wants the best for Kyle at RCR, blood is still thicker than water, and this means that his grandson, Austin Dillon, who drives RCR's number 3 car, is always going to be number 1 in the eyes of the team owner. What difference does it make if, in the year 2023, Dillon breaks out and lights the world on fire, while Busch has a bit of difficulty and needs some time to adjust to his new surroundings? Busch may have the impression that Dillon, who has spent his whole NASCAR career with his grandfather's team, is getting better equipment. This is a reasonable assumption to make, and regardless of whether or not it's accurate, that wouldn't sit well with Busch, who has won the Cup Series twice and is a future member of the NASCAR Hall of Fame, and is the driver who has won the most races in the history of the NASCAR National Race Series than anybody else in the sport's 74-year history. It's possible that if Dillon continues to outperform Busch, Richard Childress may start to question whether or not Busch was the best choice for his team and whether or not the former Joe Gibbs Racing driver is putting his best foot forward. After all, Richard Childress has not been able to win 6 Cup Series championships, all of which were shared with the late Dale Earnhardt, and go to victory lane 113 times at NASCAR's highest level by establishing a low standard for his drivers. Every single weekend, Childress will anticipate that Busch will bring his A-game to the track. If the results aren't there, both the owner and the driver could have some buyer's remorse. This is especially true if Dillon, who is generally a driver who finishes in the middle of the pack, enjoys more success over an extended period of weeks or months. If Kyle Busch's new team and crew chief don't work well together, let's be honest, it's impossible to predict how well a driver and team, especially a driver and crew chief, are going to mesh until they're in the thick of the action. Although Busch has worked with a number of different crew chiefs over the course of his career, he has achieved an astounding amount of success, but his working relationship with most of them has not been a bed of roses. This was the case even for Adam Stevens, the crew chief who was instrumental in the driver winning both of his Cup Series victories. Even so, there came a time when the two just could not agree with one another anymore and recognized the necessity for a change, which was ultimately implemented. It is anyone's guess as to how well Busch will get along with his new crew chief, Randall Burnett. Even if Burnett came close to greatness in 2022 with 26-year-old Tyler Reddick, it does not always guarantee that success will continue over to Busch. Busch is significantly further along in his career and more set in his ways than his predecessor in RCR's number 8 car. If Busch and Burnett are unable to agree on a course of action and do it in a timely manner, the driver may come to the conclusion that the two are not a good fit for each other, which would distort his perspective of the entire company. If the RCR team has significantly improved, 2022 was just a lucky year. before the Renaissance season of 2022, in which Richard Childress Racing went to victory lane 4 times with Tyler Reddick and once with Austin Dillon. The organization hasn't won more than 2 races in a single year since Kevin Harvick prevailed 4 times in 2013, which was his final year with the company. RCR fell well behind other powerful companies such as Hendrick Motorsports, Joe Gibbs Racing, and Team Penske throughout the years 2014 through 2021, both in terms of number of races won and their overall pace. This, of course, raises the question of whether or not RCR's performance in 2022 was a fluke or a genuine turnaround. That the second statement is accurate must have been cemented in Kyle Busch's mind by Childress. When it became apparent that Busch's time at JGR was coming to an end, Busch would have, without a doubt, gone somewhere if he hadn't taken his opportunity. He had any shortage of options. But if it turns out that 2022 was an anomaly, perhaps because the rollout of the next generation race car that even the playing field between teams and RCR isn't ready to contend for wins and championships on a regular basis, then Busch will invariably come to the conclusion that he made a mistake and should have gone to another team. And if he continues to experience these emotions, it's highly possible that his time spent at RCR will be cut short. If long-buried feelings of a personal animosity between Kyle Busch and Richard Childress reassert themselves, and the decision that Childress made to give Busch a Rolex watch in public on the same day that they made their announcement caused everyone to have a good laugh. This is because it was widely reported that Childress had instructed his grandson Austin Dillon to hold his watch before hitting Busch in the face more than a decade ago. But will these emotions really stick around? Both Busch and Childress have quite enormous egos, and this can be attributed, in large part, to the success they've had in their different roles in the sport over the course of a number of years. This was demonstrated by Childress during the previous season when he grew very infuriated with Tyler Reddick when Reddick announced his intention to depart RCR. Over the course of his 18 years competing in the Cup Series, Busch has lashed out numerous times at NASCAR, other competitors, the media, and even members of his own organization, putting his inflated sense of self-importance on full display. If their personalities don't mesh, or if one of them does or says anything to irritate the other, it's always possible that Busch and Childress's long-standing animosity will flare up again in the future, regardless of how unlikely this scenario may seem. It would be pretty naive to believe that the two will never find themselves in the same situation again, given the length of time that they spent actively disliking one another. So, that's all for today's video. If you want to watch more videos like this one, please don't forget to hit the like button. We also would appreciate it if you would share our video with all your friends and family and fellow racing fans who are in your inner circle. One more favor to ask of you, friend. Please make sure you subscribe to our channel by pressing the bell icon. Doing that will allow you to be notified immediately anytime we have a new NASCAR video for you to check out. Hey, thanks for spending time out of your busy day with us today, and we'll look forward to going racing with you again soon. Thanks for watching.